Hi, I'm Stephanie Tangway. I'm a clinical education specialist for Motion Concepts. We're going to take a closer look at the E2 back using the Mini hardware and looking at hardware adjustments with the back on the chair. Okay, so now we're going to put this E2 back 16 tall with the Mini hardware, the MiniSet Hardware, into this 16-inch wide chair. Line the bottom pins up with the little tails of the seahorse, and then locks back up in place. And now that this is installed, I'm going to start with adjustment to the hardware for depth and angle. And so I'll just turn the chair slightly, because for depth and angle adjustment, we'll be using the seahorse-shaped aspect of the bracketry. And so we have 3 different bolts here. The first bolt is the wraparound hinge clamp. It's holding this onto the back cane. And behind that are 2 barrel head bolts. And that we're going to loosen these, 2 on each side. And you can see how they correspond with the set of slots here. And that's where we're going to get our depth adjustment. And having the depth adjustment range of that 2-inch slot is what gives us our angle adjustment. So I'll just loosen this up a little bit, just enough to get it to move here, and then get on this side, and you'll see how easy this is to really dial this right in for your consumer. So now I have these loose, and you can see that I can go fore and aft on this. So it moves through the slotting range of the seahorse on each side of the MiniSet hardware. And that is what gives us the ability to open our seat to back angle. I can do a 20 degrees open and to a 20 degrees closed range with this. So I have a lot of angle adjustment here. And I can have the consumer in the chair while I'm trying to find that orientation and depth and really get this right where it needs to be optimally for my consumer to give them the support and stability that they need. Now, the other thing, because it's slotted on both sides with our EasySet and MiniSet designs, I can also do some rotational offset. If you've ever worked with a consumer that had a little bit of torso rotation, where you might feel like they didn't get even contact or weight distribution on the back, we can use the double slotting of this hardware in order to offset the back, so I could actually bring it a little bit more forward on one side and a little bit more rearward on the other, or vice versa. So that type of angle orientation and rotational orientation really gives me a tremendous amount of versatility with this hardware. Once I have this set where I really feel like I've met the optimal orientation for the consumer, I'm going to go in and tighten those same 2 bolts again on each side. So get that bracket, that's locking that angle orientation in place. Remember, this is the MiniSet hardware, and with the MiniSet hardware, this is a quick release. You saw me pop it in at the beginning of this video. So every time I remove and replace this back, it's going to return to this orientation. So now I can do this, lift this out, and I can put it right back in, put my bottom pins in the little seahorse tails, pop it up, and it latches into place. So very, very quick and easy, allowed me a lot of versatility. The other thing that's really nice about this hardware is that it allows me to also evaluate a couple different types of backs pretty quickly. So this is a 16 tall, 16 wide back in a 16-inch wide chair. If I wanted to try something with a little bit more lateral support, I might use the E2 Deep. This happens to be a 16 wide, 14-inch tall E2 Deep. And if I bring that in, latch it in place, now that went to the same angle orientation, but with those deeper lateral thoracic supports, I might go back. I can easily, again, loosen those bolts and fine tune this. So it's really easy with the way that the Matrx back hardware works, especially with this E2 design. I have a lot of versatility to try different heights, different contours, and to rapidly assess it. To just show you the extreme I can go to, here's our 6-inch tall little E2 back, and I can bring this and pop this right in place, and I could try something even that short. Not that I would necessarily do that in this particular type of a back, but it gives me that option to really try all different types of things. Anything with the mini pin configuration would fit in that. So now let's go back to our original E2, and I'm going to show you the real advantage as we've transitioned to this E2 style of Elite back, is that because we now have a very different way of attaching these mounting pins, that we have even more adjustment at our fingertips. So all of the E2 back shells are slotted. Hopefully you can see that. So they're slotted vertically, and the hardware, the pin assembly hardware bracket is slotted horizontally. And this allows me to change the height with the consumer in the chair, and I can also get a little bit of versatility with where the back is oriented between the back canes because of this horizontal sliding. So in order to do this, I'm going to use my smaller Allen key that comes with the back, and I'm going to loosen the two bolts on each side. I just want to loosen this enough just to be able to glide this through those slots. So I don't need it to be super loose to do that, because you're going to see as I can bring this up in orientation. So I can have this, I can raise my back up, look at different back height orientations. I can actually bring this all the way down, and because this is a 16 tall, I can drop it all the way down through that slotting. You can see I just now brought my back almost down low enough to touch the top of the seat cushion in this particular chair. So I can pretty rapidly, if I was fitting this to a consumer, I really want to make sure that the lower aspect of my back here is stabilizing the PSIS of the consumer, and really look at that orientation. But the other thing that I really love about this slotted versatility, which is highlighted so well, I have a chair here that is a 9000 XT, and this has what they call a space saver flip back arm. So the armrest attachment kicks back in line with the back cane. So a lot of times we might see adding an aftermarket back here can be cumbersome. If I really wanted a back lower, I have to be sure that I'm not interfering with this part of the bracket, or else the armrest would not flip back. And so when you look at how I can do this, I can mount on the real estate that I have access to and use the vertical slotting to bring the back in orientation. And I have plenty of room to clear that part of the armrest. Other great advantages of this might be, again, the cantilever arm, or perhaps a welded-on rigidizer bar in a different style chair, where I can only sometimes have very limited real estate access to back canes to mount, but I really need my back orientation, especially height orientation, to be different. This vertical slotting gives us the ability to do that very easily. And so now I can get my height orientation where I want it, and I can also do a little bit of, I can take advantage of this horizontal slotting and do a little bit of rotational offset. So away from midline, I guess I should say. So an offset orientation fine tuning laterally. So if you have somebody who's perhaps has a more of a fixed scoliosis and they're not really truly in maintaining or sitting with their torso in midline, I can bring the back in orientation on their torso and lock that up, and be able to, again, get that, maximize that support and weight bearing. So there's a lot of incredible things because of the ease of this adjustment range that we have with the hardware now. So again, we get it set up and oriented, and then we're going to go back in and lock this. So I tighten my 4 little Allen bolts again, and then I'm going to as I tighten these and lock that in. And now I have the ability to have this optimally adjusted for the consumer and really do all of that with them in the chair, which is so critical to really fine-tuning that. And then I want to show you one other great versatility with this hardware. I really love sometimes being able to fit my back to the consumer's torso, but a lot of times the torso width is not the same as the hip width. And so this does give us the ability to do something really wonderful, which is take a true measurement of the torso and the space that you need, and a true measurement for your hip width. So this, what I've just done now, I have a 16-inch wide chair, 16-inch wide cushion. This is a 14-inch wide back that is mounted into a 16-inch wide chair. And what I've done now is I've got this hardware bracket. You can see the slotting is all the way extended. So I've been able to put this narrower back. So let's say you've got somebody with those wider pelvis, narrower torso. I can get the back and that contour around them. Let's say they need more lateral thoracic support. I could have a 14 wide, deep contour back that would fit into the same exact configuration and take advantage of this slotting to really set this up optimally for them. So that's a pretty great versatility with that adjustment range in the hardware. And then when you do use a narrower back, as I have here, this also allows me, I can do some, there's a little bit of range to a little bit of offset, but if I had a 1-inch narrower back, let's say a 15 wide, I can even more so offset the back right to left, away from midline. So just really amazing what this allows us to do for the consumers, because so many of the people that we're working with are not symmetrical. So this really has at my fingertips versatility that I think is just fantastic from a clinical perspective, and really truly dialing this in for the consumer. So.